You did not miss the green light. She said she was gonna.
And we're live.
We're live. We're live. Hello, everyone. Hello. It's Tuesday, 4 o'clock Pacific, 5 o'clock Mountain, and here in Costa Rica, 7 o'clock on the East Coast, midnight in Dublin and London, 1 a.m. in Milan and the rest of Europe, 9 o'clock a.m. Wednesday morning in Brisbane, 11 a.m. Wednesday morning in Auckland, and it's Facebook Live. Hello, everyone. Glad to see you're here. Thank you so much. Tell us where you're from. And as you have questions for our topic today, you can just put them right in the question box, the Q&A. And I'm really excited for our guest today. Heather I'm actually going to read you her bio so I don't get any of it wrong. So give me a moment while I pull that up here. Okay, Heather Aardema, is that correct? Aardema?
No, it's Aardema. It's
Aardema.
A Dutch last name.
Thank you. Heather Aardema is a national board and functional medicine certified health coach, as well as a certified life coach. She's a former clutter bug turned minimalist and founder of the School of Living Lighter. She's a former TV ad executive. She spent 2 decades convincing people that they needed the latest gadget to be happy. Struggling to find meaning towards the end of her corporate career, she couldn't take off her extra weight. Her home was cluttered and life felt heavy. Then she discovered minimalism, the intentional pursuit of focusing on what matters most, and felt herself getting lighter by the day. Heather left corporate and today has helped thousands tackle their clutter, uncomplicate their lives, and lose their excess mental, emotional, and physical weight for good. Well, that's a marvelous, marvelous bio. Congratulations on that.
Thank you. It's been the journey.
I'm sure it has. And if you were packing some extra weight, you certainly don't look like you have a spare tire now.
No. I let go of that clutter, that body clutter.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I'm thrilled. That's why I'm thrilled at this topic today, is because for so many people, they try everything to lose weight, but what they haven't done is look to what is the weight protecting? What is it that we're holding on to that's subsurface that we may not be aware of? So that's one of the topics we'll get into today. And Anne was so kind as to not say anything, but I think it's because she didn't know what to say, because I've done something I've never done before. We're putting together a new docuseries that'll come out on Valentine's Day next year. And it's about lightening up in life and how do we reduce the inflammation, chronic low-grade inflammation in our lives. So I was getting ready for today. I took a shower and then I was shaving, which I do every couple of weeks. And I thought, why not? So I stopped halfway. And so this is what happens in our life when you do a little bit to get better, but you don't do everything that you need to do, right? It's like, what? What? I mean, I just walked from the bathroom through the bedroom past the kitchen, and my wife looked at me and said, have a good Facebook Live. She said, wait a minute. And she's looked at me and she, what? And our 2.5-year-old son said, Daddy. And he came over, I picked him up, and he feels one side of my face, and then he feels the other side of my face, and he's like, Daddy. But this is what it's like when you're not thorough. When you have a degenerative condition, which so many people here comment on and share, and they're not doing what they need to do completely, whether you call it cheat days with the food you're supposed to be avoiding, or something that needs to be cleaned up in your life that's not cleaned up yet. So I thought this would be a reminder for the hour, that we're here.
Yeah, I actually have a thought. You came prepared today with half of your face clean shaven and the other half not. And as humans, it's just so natural for us to go negative. And so there could be a thought inside saying, oh my gosh, I can't believe I forgot to do this, or I'm so embarrassed, I'm so ashamed, how silly of me, and some form of thought that is full of judgment.
Yeah.
And that, I would say, would be a perfect example of mind clutter.
Yes. Way to go.
So
yeah.
instead, you look at it and you laugh and you say, this could be uplifting and fun. And what a wonderful interpretation that will lift you and lift others. And that is the choice that we all have. We can go heavy or we can go light with our thoughts.
That's exactly what happened as I was doing this. I'm shaving one side of my face, and I'm thinking I should leave half of it the way it is. And there's no, I can't do that. That wouldn't look good. Somebody's going to take a picture and they'll put it on the internet, and I'm like a crazy guy and all this blah, 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 yabba, yabba, yabba. And then I just started laughing inside. So why not? Why not? Right. So, and about lightening up. I mean, I love the definition of enlightenment. Enlightenment is to lighten up. Just lighten up.
And that's something that is available to every single person.
Yeah.
That's not just something that's reserved for the select few. We all have the option to lighten up if we choose to.
Yes. Yeah. So how did that realization come to you initially?
Well, I had a lot of clutter in my life. I was born thinking that more was more. And I if more was good, right, then even more would be better.
Yeah.
And so breakfast time with my sisters, my dad would make some toast and I would watch my sisters and I would try and figure out, how am I going to get all the toast? They didn't even care. My sisters didn't even like toast, but I did. It was something that was addictive in my body. Excuse me. And so that kind of followed me through life, this idea that I always needed more. So if I was shopping and something was on sale, even if I didn't need it, I wanted to buy it. If friends were getting together, I wasn't invited. Oh, that would crush me. And so I filled my life up so full, past the point of full, that at a point in my early 40s, it hit me that I was overcomplicating everything. And I came across this idea of minimalism. At first, I thought it meant deprivation and restriction, and I did not like it at all. And then I realized that it could be this beautiful pathway toward intentionality. And when
wait.
Yeah.
That's a mouthful right there. A beautiful pathway towards intentionality. I mean, that's huge. So let's just stay there for a moment. What does that mean? What does that mean?
To me, I realized that it didn't have to mean restriction, that instead it could mean an abundance of the very few things that mattered most to me. There's an excellent book called Essentialism. Have you heard of it?
I have.
Greg McKeown. And in this book, he writes about the idea that if you say yes to every single good opportunity, there won't be any space for the very few great opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
I love that idea. And so I realized I was filling my life with so much clutter. So not just calendar clutter and work clutter, but food, lots of food that was clutter in my body. And it was not serving me. And so I decided I needed to do a massive decluttering. And it was one of the best decisions of my adult life.
Marvelous, really marvelous. And living a life of intentionality. Now, if you're living with intentionality, it means that you're doing what you really want to do. Am I correct in that?
Yes. And you're asking yourself, well, what I like to think of it is that you're living a life of design and not default. You're getting off of autopilot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You get off of autopilot and you decide with your prefrontal cortex, how do I want to show up? How do I want to move forward? And what feels lightest? And that's what I use as my compass, always. What feels light, and that's how I move forward.
Marvelous, really marvelous. It's and as you began this process, this realization, and then stepping into this world of intentionality, what happened to your body?
What happened to my body?
Yeah.
Oh, all the weight fell off.
What does that mean? You mean 2 pounds, 5 pounds? What does that mean?
Oh, it varied from time to time, but 20 pounds, 25 pounds, 15 pounds. It would vary. I was 17. Excuse me. And we'll talk about other forms of clutter in a second. That's some clutter, body clutter from toxic mold, why I'm coughing. But when I was 17, a coach pulled me aside and said, Heather, you need to lose some weight or you won't be able to perform the way you want to perform. He was right. I had gained some weight and I dropped the weight through intermittent fasting without realizing what it was. And I dropped the weight, but then it just came back on and more and more. And so when I decided to focus on what was clutter in my life and what was not, that weight, all the weight fell off and never came back on again.
Mm-hmm. Marvelous. Marvelous. As you let go of what you didn't need in life, I assume that would have reduced the amount of stress hormones your body was producing on a daily basis.
Oh, absolutely. Because there were some common things that I decided to let go of. So I let go of gluten and grains. I let go of alcohol. I let go of nightshades. And at first people said, oh, that's so sad that you have to eat that way. And I said, no, this is my choice. I want to do this. It feels good. It's liberating. And so it never felt restrictive to me. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a very common response from people when they go gluten-free, dairy-free, added sugar-free, is that in a couple of weeks, say, wow, I just feel great. I feel really good. And then they'll slip, they'll have a piece of pizza or something. And the next day they feel terrible. And when they would come into the office, oh, doc, I was feeling great, but I had some pizza last night. I just feel tired. I say, great. That's really great. Because this is not some cerebral exercise. Now you know. And right. So, it's up to you. If you want to feel terrible, go out and have pizza with your friends again, and if not, eat something beforehand so you're not starving. And then when you go out for pizza, have a salad while they have their pizza. Right? Yeah.
Yes, I always go prepared. I know what I'm going to order and that makes it easy. But I also say, if you do go and have that pizza, please don't create a net negative, meaning don't shame yourself afterwards. Don't berate yourself because now not only are you swollen and you feel bad, but you're being mean to yourself. That's more mind clutter. So instead, let go of being mean, have some compassion, say, well, clearly I needed to capture some more data. And now I really know I'm not going to go have the pizza.
Right. It's critically important for us to understand that this concept of perfection is so sabotaging to our well-being. We think we're supposed to be perfect. I mean, it took me 8 years to give up my mother's Christmas cookies. I mean, after I did the gluten summit and everything else that we'd been talking about and teaching on stage for a number of years. But still, I'd go home at Christmas with my family and my mother's Christmas cookies. The smell would be throughout the house. And, it's the holidays, I'll have one. And then after that, it's just gone. It's gone. Well, I tried this one. I've tried that one. And then, because mom makes 8 or 9 different types and they're on a big plate and, little sprinkles on them and all of that toxic food coloring stuff. And, I say, oh, geez. And then I go home and I would berate myself. As we were driving back from Michigan to Chicago, when we lived in Chicago. It's a 6-hour drive. And I would just say, oh, I feel so lousy. What's the matter with me? I'm not going to do that anymore. And the next year I do the same thing. Right. And it took 8 years before it just didn't have the attraction anymore. So there's no need to beat ourselves up. It's not perfection. It's progress. We want progress, not perfection. And it makes such a world of difference.
It does. And frankly, you could look and say, wow, it only took me 8 years. It could have taken me a lifetime.
That's right.
This is wonderful.
That's right. Well, what happened was my wife taught my mother how to bake gluten-free. And so she'd still do all of her regular stuff, but then she'd do a few things for us, for the family. And, that worked out really well. That was great. That was great.
That's really good. Yeah.
So we have a question that came in from Anonymous on Zoom. This is hi, Anonymous. Nice to hear from you again. You know, this Anonymous, but the question is resources, options for one laundry soap without its own toxins for blankets, duvet, pillows. Really good question. And shampoo without its own toxins with tea tree oil, and companies to clean mold in a home. So I'll take the first two, and then I'm going to hand the third one off to you, Heather. So we'll put the link here for Steve Azel's company, and we'll put the link in. I'm not remembering the name of the company in the moment, but they do the best things. You know, they send you your first order of laundry detergent is in the big plastic things, you know, but then they also give you a refill that's in a disposable, a biodegradable bag of powder. And you put the powder in the plastic container they sent you the first time, and you add water, and here's your soap again. And they have saved literally a few million plastic containers to the garbage dump by this whole concept. They do the same with glass cleaner, non-toxic glass cleaner, furniture polish, non-toxic furniture polish. And the most important one in my mind is the veggie wash. They send you a bottle with 2 packets or 1 packet, depending on how you order it. You put it in the plastic spray bottle and you add water, shake it up, and it's good to go. And it removes over 90, I believe it was 94 or 97% of the waxes, insecticides, pesticides, and antibiotics in the food. So you take the broccoli when you get home, you spray it, and you've got a little tub of water in the sink. You just dump it in there, swish it around a couple of times, it's done. But you've removed over 90% of the toxins in the conventional broccoli. Truly free, I think it is. Is that right, Ann? I don't have my glasses on. I'll take a look here. And
yes, truly free.
Great, great, great. Yeah, they're great. They're just the best. I've got such respect for this company because they pushed the envelope to come up with a new concept. I think it was about 7-8 years ago, and already they've saved millions of bottles, literally a few million. And so that's the company to use. You can trust their products. They're highest quality, toxin-free. That's their whole platform that they started the company on. And they're Christian people, which, you know, it's not pro or con, but it means they live with integrity, and they make sure that everything they do, they feel good about. I mean, he's a good friend, and his whole company with all their employees have the same sense of serving humanity by working on an assembly line, putting the boxes together, you know, and all that. But they understand the impact of what they're doing. So I encourage everyone to look at Truly Free and try their products. I think you'll be really happy you did. And the third one here about companies to clear mold in your home. What's your experience, Heather?
Well, yeah, we really haven't talked much about that. So we had toxic mold in our house when we bought it 16 years ago. We thought it was not really a big deal at the time. And the prior owners just painted over the toxic mold in the attic, and we bought the house. We saved $2,000, which I thought, wow, this is great. And years later, after numerous autoimmune conditions and more and more symptoms, I got tested for mold. We found out that I had mold in my body. And it's been the journey ever since. And so I wheeze, I cough, but I am getting better. And I have learned what you absolutely do not want to use when you are cleaning mold in your home is bleach.
Yeah.
So many people will say, oh, use some bleach, clean off the shower curtain with some bleach. Bleach is the worst thing. It will make the mold angry. It will produce more mycotoxins, and that will make me cough more.
Yeah. The thing about mold, folks, the thing about mold is it produces spores. It's exhaust. I guess you could say it's the poop of mold is spores. And the spores are so light and feathery, they float in the air and you breathe them in. They're also on your books. And my good friend, Dr. Jill Carnahan, realized that her brain was not working very well. And she tested and found out that she had mold in her house. She left that day, never went back to the house, never got the books that she'd accumulated over the years, the clothes, nothing, because she knew how these spores, they just penetrate into everything and you keep getting inoculated, right? And she rented an apartment and she started her life over. And a couple of years later, she's dynamic and vibrant and aggressive, a mountain climber. She's got a screaming motorcycle. I mean, she's a force, and traveling the world lecturing.
Yes, she's one of my neighbors. She's a fellow Coloradan, and
oh, how marvelous!
We've used a similar remediation company for her office, not her home, and so it's. Yeah. If you are thinking you have mold in your home, I would suggest bringing a professional out to test the home. It might seem pricey, but it's absolutely worth knowing where the mold is and so forth. I got rid of all my books. I got rid of my wedding dress. I got rid of all my clothes. I let go of anything that had absorbent properties. And thank goodness I had already found minimalism and decluttering, because I realized it would have been a lot harder, I think, for me to let go of those things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
One of the thoughts that really helps, though, is that I reminded myself that things are meaningless until we give them meaning. And so with my wedding dress, I took it to the donation center and I thought somebody else gets to wear it.
Mm-hmm.
How beautiful is that?
It's really sweet. Yeah.
Instead of saying hidden in my closet, it gets to go have another life.
Yeah.
And the books, somebody else gets to read these, because not everybody is sensitive to mold. So it's clutter in my house and my life, but not clutter for everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If you take a squirt gun and you squirt a squirt gun on a bunch of a pile of sticks, and if the squirt gun is full of gasoline and you squirt a pile of sticks, nothing happens. But if you've got a campfire and you take a squirt gun and you squirt the gasoline on the campfire, you get. If you already have mold infection in your lungs and your body and you're exposed to a little bit, you get this explosion inside of you, which is what we're seeing and experiencing with Heather, is that this is in her lungs and she's still working to clean this and detox and get it out. But people who don't have a bonfire going on from constant exposure 24/7 in your home for years, people that don't have that, they put on a wedding dress, it's like squirting gasoline on a pile of sticks. There's no reaction for them.
That's a beautiful way to explain it. And it's, yeah, I see the question, wouldn't that make the wedding dress, wouldn't that make somebody else sick? And 24% of the population are like me. We are more susceptible to mold, but a lot of people aren't. They're able to breathe it in and excrete it out. But in people like me, we breathe it in and then it just swirls and it creates its byproducts and doesn't know how to leave our body without some kind of binder or some kind of support.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly right.
Yeah, so the drugs, wouldn't make other people sick. And now, once you know if you're sensitive, you're going to be very intentional about where you buy things and what you buy and what you bring into your home.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Priscilla makes a comment about just saying, with celiac, one needs to learn social skills to address eating out when all others eat pizza in a gluten-ridden restaurant. I'm comfortable now, but I get crap from time to time. I refuse to cut myself out of social situations. Good for you, Priscilla. The things to do, there are 3 things to do. First is to eat at home before you go out to dinner, so that you feel satisfied enough that you're not starving. Second, you might call the restaurant in advance to see what the options are that are gluten-free. And third, you take the either E3 Advanced Plus or Wheat Rescue when you go into that restaurant to deal with any inadvertent exposures that you might get. And that's how you protect yourself and go out to a pizza parlor with your friends, and yeah, they're going to tease you a little bit, but if you've got the attitude that Heather's got, and that you're lightening up in life and you're taking care of yourself, and you can walk with pride that you're taking care of yourself. And that's a way to go. Way to go.
Can I say that last point that you just made is so powerful? It's a lot of people said to me with alcohol and with gluten, well, Heather, why aren't you drinking? Why aren't you drinking? And my response to that was, I decided my life is complete without more alcohol. And it's kind of hard to say, oh, come on, just have one. When somebody says, oh, no, my life is complete. And with the gluten, I reminded myself why I was doing it. And those reasons felt really good.
Yeah.
And instead of feeling embarrassed or, oh, no, I owned it. I owned that decision.
Yeah.
And nobody can take that from you when you decide to own the decision.
Amen. Amen. That's exactly right. When you said you were alcohol free at the beginning of this show, my first thought was, I'm not giving up my wine. I'm Italian. I'm not giving up my wine. But that went in my head. And I mean, that's like this kind of a face, right? That's what that reaction was inside of me. And I smiled about it because our messaging in our summit that comes out on Valentine's Day, it's the low-grade chronic systemic inflammation that is the mechanism of every degenerative disease. It doesn't matter what it is. It's the low-grade inflammation under the surface that doesn't produce any symptoms because, you're kind of putting your toe in the water, but you're not diving in completely. You kind of shave half your face, but not the other half, I mean, that's exactly what our docuseries is going to be about. And Heather, you're a really good example of finding peace in the midst of changing lifestyle. And I believe I would wager on this, that if there were 4 of you out to dinner, you and your friends, and at a pizza place, and you've done your preparation to be there, and you're feeling great, and they're having wine and pizza, I would wager that you are radiating just as much happiness or more authentic happiness, not drinking alcohol.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you just said a key word, you said peace.
Yes.
One of my clients said the other day, it's called FOMO, peace of missing out. It's the perfect antidote to FOMO, fear of missing out.
Yeah, that's great. That's really great. Yeah, missing out. Oh, but I've got to have this wine, or else I won't be with my friends. They'll think I'm weird, or they, I won't be as happy as they are. Well, no, that's not necessarily true.
Not necessarily true. And there's also something called JOMO, which is joy of missing out. And so anytime you're feeling that FOMO, know that you're able to pivot if you want to JOMO or POMO.
Mary Donna is asking, how do you get tested for mold? And there's 2 basic tests that I'll do. The first one is a urine test, because if you have mold accumulating inside your body, the mold produces exhaust. As I mentioned, the spores in the air, but once the mold is living inside your body, it's got an exhaust, and the exhaust will be in the urine. It's really easy to measure. And the second test is a blood test to look to see, is your immune system fighting mold? And how aggressively is it doing that? Which can explain chronic fatigue, multiple chemical sensitivities, recurrent brain fog. So many different symptoms may be because your immune system is allocating its precious resources to fighting mold, and it can't deal with the other things you're being exposed to in life. Heather, are there any other tests that you would do for mold?
Well, I did the urine test. I had the house tested in the beginning when mold was a new topic for us. And then I guess this isn't really just a test, but it's a check-in with your intuition. Yeah. And it's, do you not feel well?
Yeah.
And if you don't feel well, especially when you're in your home or your office or wherever you spend a lot of your time. I think that is a test in itself, actually, is really just making so often we are going so fast. And we're in a society that is a go, 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 do, create, produce, and we forget to slow down. And so I would say just slow down and ask yourself, how do I physically feel right now? How do I mentally feel? The brain fog that you mentioned earlier, I had massive brain fog. Thank goodness that's gone. And ask yourself, am I experiencing symptoms that don't make sense? So I also had horrible vertigo for months. And it didn't make sense to me. And so then somebody said, well, check for mold. And I was offended. What do you mean mold? I have a nice house. Often when people hear mold, they think, oh, is she living in this dilapidated building?
Right.
And the mold is invisible to so many of us. And it's in more than half of homes here in the United States and probably around the world. And so it's a more common than not thing.
I told this story before. Those who have been here may have heard it before. But one of the patients that came to me was a president of a bank in Chicago. By then I was living in California and they wanted to fly me to Chicago. And I'm not going to Chicago, but yeah, you want to see me? Sure, come here. And I didn't have an office in Southern California. So I met them at a coffee shop, but my reputation is diagnosing the undiagnosable. And it took me 4 minutes. We sat down for coffee. So he flew out with his wife and they rented a RV and they did Highway 1. They flew into San Francisco. They rented the RV. They came all the way down to San Diego. So they made an adventure out of it. And they came down to San Diego and met me. And so I complimented them on making an adventure out of this time. But he couldn't work anymore because he had such severe brain fog. And he had been to Mayo Clinic and a couple other famous places, and all the MRIs were negative. Nobody could figure out what was wrong. And he was in Chicago, and I raised a family in Chicago, so I knew a little about Chicago. And so we're sitting there having coffee, and I said, so when did your basement flood? And he was, what? He's lost his composure. This is a president of a big bank in Chicago. And how did you know my basement flooded? And I said, when was that? And he said, well, it was about 3 years ago. And when did your symptoms start? Well, it was about 2 years ago. And I said, so your basement flooded and you got people down there. They put dehumidifiers and they cleaned the carpets, dehumidified the air. And after a week or 2 weeks, everything was fine. He said, yeah. So the drywall got soaked. And on the back side of the drywall, you'll likely find black mold. And sure enough, that's exactly what it was. And it took him about 2 months to remediate the house and get it out of his body. And then he was back to work. So you can have the most spectacular house. And this house was in Kenilworth, which is a very expensive suburb of Chicago. They're very big houses in Kenilworth. But you can have a really nice house. Doesn't matter. It's not from being sloppy or not caring for your home. So Mrs. Patient, if you go on vacation for a week or 2 weeks and you come home, do you have to air the house out? You have to open the windows, air the house out? Yeah. You got mold. Yes. That's what you're trying to air out. Oh, I thought it was just stale. It's just stale. No, air doesn't get stale in a week in a house. No, you've got mold. All right, how do you test for mold in the body? All right, we just did that. How do you test for mold in the home? You have to get a professional in there. Don't try and do it yourself. This is your life. And you need someone that's been trained and certified in how to do that. And to find those people, our mutual friend, Dr. Jill Carnahan, her website has marvelous information about mold. Marvelous. And what kind of tests need to be done. Here's the national organizations that you can go and find someone certified in your area for that. Here's the tests that need to be done in your body. And so they're all listed out for you. Jill did a great job of putting it there on her website for people so that you all can get it. Anonymous on Zoom says, what about washing your clothes in ozone? Will this remove the mold? Ozone will kill mold, but it doesn't get rid of the spores. But it will kill the mold, but it doesn't get rid of the spores.
Exactly. And you know, sometimes people say you can use a little borax and vinegar, but I will tell you that did not work for me. My husband wanted to hold on to some of his clothes. He tried the borax and vinegar, and those clothes are not in the house. They are outside in the back, hanging in our porch area, because I can still feel the mold on those clothes.
Yeah, you bet. And your shower heads also have to be clean. And we'll put the link here where you can go to our website and download Detoxing Your Home. And it's specifically the bathroom. And I put the instruction there for how to detox, how to clean your shower heads, because the shower heads create what's called a biofilm. It's like a polymer, like a hard plastic, that the bad bacteria in water, there's always some bad bacteria in water, but when you turn the shower off, all that water is sitting just on the inside of the shower head. And the bacteria, if there is any bacteria there, it starts secreting this polymer. It's trying to build a nest to protect itself. And homes in warm climates, you put a new shower head on, and within 3 months, you've got high levels of toxic bacteria again. You have to clean your shower head every 3 months. And that's like here for us in Costa Rica or Hawaii or Florida, Louisiana, those places, you have to clean your shower head. Colorado, they checked them 18 months later and there was a minimal amount. So you should clean your shower heads about every 2 years in Colorado. And our download that's on the link here that Ann will post will walk you through how to do that. You have to get 30% or higher vinegar. Don't use a store-bought stuff, that because the vinegar is just acetic acid and water, but it's 6% acetic acid and then all water. Well, you go to Amazon and you get 30% vinegar, and you have to wear goggles when you're using this stuff and wear gloves because it's strong, you know. But we gave you instructions. It's all in there about cleaning your shower heads. The other thing I want to say about this, about ozone, it's a really good question about ozone. We have 2 ozone generators. And when we leave, every Sunday we go to the beach and spend the day there. So we're gone about 8 hours or so. So I turn on the ozone machines in the bedroom and in the living room. And we open all of the doors to the cabinets, all of them in the bathrooms, in the kitchen. We open them all up and I blast these things. I just turn them on. But there's 4 P's. No people, no pets, no plant. No, 3 P's. Yeah, just 3. People, plants, pets. So all of our house plants, you know, I've got some pots that are about this big and big plants. So I've got to pick them up and take them outside every Sunday morning and then bring them back in afterwards. But I turn the ozone machines on and you turn them off 90 minutes before you come home because you don't want to breathe a lot of ozone. It's not good for your lungs at all. It kills stuff, which is great, you know, for cleaning up your house, but no people, plants, or no people, plants, or pets. And there is, I researched ozone machines, and I've never seen anyone that is as proud of their equipment and use the highest quality equipment as Oxyzone, Oxyzone. Oxyzone Enterprises. And I don't know where he is. I think he's in Tennessee or somewhere. But I had a long conversation with the owner, Charles, a couple of years ago, and I was really impressed with, you know, he takes a machine apart and he was showing me in a Zoom call, he was showing me, you see this screw? This screw will never rust. And he's so proud of this screw, but it cost me double what the other screws are, right? But he had that kind of pride in every component of his equipment. And they've got ozone machines for your house, ozone machines for your fruits and vegetables. There's a hose that goes to a little disc that goes in the thing of water, and you put your carrots in there if you want to use that for your fruits and vegetables. Oxyzone Enterprises was really impressive. Their phone number is 800-240-8514. And Ann will post that, 800-240-8514. They're the best. And I don't know this guy any more than one conversation, but I'm really impressed with his products. I got four different ozone machines from, 2 for the house, 1 for the fruits and vegetables, and 1 for my ice bath. So some of you have heard me talk about Wim Hof and how great that is. Well, his ice baths are like $9,000 or $12,000. I said, that's nonsense. You just get an ice chest, a freezer, a freezer chest, and you waterproof the inside corners, the seams, and you put water in it and just turn it on. And then you get a thermostat that controls when the power goes to the machine. So the thermostat goes into the water to keep the temperature. My temperature is between 37 and 40 degrees. And when it's in that range, the freezer that plugs into the thermometer device, that's where the plug's in, but there's no power. But when it goes outside that range, then it turns on or it turns off. If it goes too low, it turns off. If it goes too high, it turns off. If it's too high and it turns on, keep it right in between 37 and 40. Inexpensive, costs a few $100, and you've got an $8,000 to $12,000 ice bath. And
how often do you use yours?
We were gone for 9 weeks, and we've just gotten back about 5 weeks ago, and I'm back to about a minute to a minute and a half, 3 times a week. And I really am a proponent. My whole life has been charged through, just barrel through. But I have to realize I'm 71, and it's kind of foolish to so I operate from progress, not perfection. Yeah. So I started back at 30 seconds, and then I went to a minute. Now I'm about a minute and a half. And before we left on vacation, I would do 5 minutes 2 or 3 times a week. But the science really shows that after about a minute and a half to 2 minutes, there's no more benefit physically. You get all of the physical benefits between a minute and a half and 2 minutes. Okay. But some people, their chest comes up. Well, I can do 10 minutes. I say, well, good for you. That's really great. But it really is wonderful to revitalize and rebuild a stronger body. I've never seen anything as powerful as cold water therapy. It's really quite impressive.
It is part of my healing journey as well. We have an ice barrel in the back. I'm not as courageous, putting that's cold what you're talking about. We have a well, and so we'll put cold well water in it. Uh-huh. And that's where I'm at. And like you said, progress. Doesn't have to be perfect. In fact, my 11-year-old tells me all the time that perfect doesn't exist. And so throw out the perfect, and as long as you're making progress, it's benefiting you.
That's exactly right. My first mentor was Dr. George Goodhart, the founder of Applied Kinesiology. And he would say in many of the talks that he gave, he'd talk about hot, cold, hot. And so you get in the shower and you have the hot water beating down on your kidney areas right back here, because your adrenal glands sit on top of the kidneys, and you get nice warm water, just relaxing, melting into it. Then you reach around behind and you breathe, take a few deep breaths, and then turn it all the way to cold, all the way, and keep breathing. Don't go, keep breathing as best as you can. Keep breathing for 5 seconds or so, and then turn it back to hot. Hot opens up your blood vessels, cold shuts them down, hot opens them up again. And so you're pumping more blood into your adrenal glands, into your kidneys and your adrenal glands. That's part of the protocol to rebuild worn out adrenal glands. The hot, cold, hot. And so that starts you in the direction of cold showers, hot, cold, hot, which then can lead you in the direction of cold baths, which is where Wim Hof comes in. Okay, Charlene asks, can you speak to how to let go of things when you don't have an extrinsic motivator like mold or something else urgent?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so here's the thing. I want to say this to everybody, not just the person asking the question. Often what will happen is we will have thoughts that will sabotage our progress. And there's been research that's been done that has identified 9 specific types of thinking. It was factor analysis research. It was done by somebody named Shirzad Sharmin. And so there are these 9 types of thoughts. And so when I developed autoimmune diseases and I was eating gluten-free, my mom said to me, you know, Heather, you're kind of lucky that you have autoimmune disease so that you have to eat gluten-free. I don't have that motivator, and it's not fair. And I said, wow, Mom, that is an interesting thought to have. And you don't need to have autoimmune disease to decide to go gluten-free. You can decide that on your own. And I'm not luckier that I have this condition. It's how I'm choosing to interpret my condition and how I am choosing to move forward. There are plenty of people who have autoimmune conditions that are eating a lot of gluten. And so what my mom was doing was she was basically, it was not my mom, but it was her victimizing thoughts that were sabotaging her progress on a gluten-free diet. It's not fair that I don't have an autoimmune condition. I don't have an extrinsic or an intrinsic reason to help me be gluten-free. And so often the same thing can be with mold. Well, if I don't have mold, it's going to be harder for me to let go. And the good news is that is just a thought, and that thought is optional. And you can decide, hey, if that thought is serving me on my journey, I'm going to use it. But if it's not serving me, I'm no longer going to use it, and it won't block your progress. And so let go of the thought that you need any kind of bigger reason to let go of your clutter. That will be a doorway that is just opening for you, and it will make the process so much easier.
Amen. Well said.
Often what happens when we start to declutter is that it'll feel like we're taking 1 step forward and 2 steps back. And we'll declutter for decades and decades. And it becomes part of our identity. Oh, I'm decluttering, I'm decluttering. And if you don't want that to happen, the first thing I suggest you do is get to the root cause of why you have clutter. Clutter is a symptom. Just like my coughing and wheezing is a symptom of toxic mold, clutter is a symptom of something as well. So for example, often my clients will tell me stories of their childhood. And maybe they felt like they had very little control except for when it came to their things. And then maybe their things became their friends. And so 6 decades later, how do you let go of your friends? And so there's a lot of understanding what is the root cause of why I have these things, showing yourself some compassion, and then deciding intentionally how you want to move forward. And a lot of what that looks like is learning how to think on purpose, choosing thoughts that will serve you on your journey as you move towards your lighter life.
And how does one develop this skill? I mean, how did you develop this skill?
Well, I'm a learner. I love to read books, and I love psychology. And I was curious, why did I have so much clutter in my life? And so the human brain loves complication. We will make things so complicated if we can. And I asked myself, well, what is the opposite of complication? And it's all about simplifying. It's taking the simpler path, the lighter path. And so a question that I use every day, and my clients use as well, when you're decluttering, whether it's a pair of pants, or if you're looking at your calendar and it's too full and you want to delete some meetings, so you're cleaning your calendar, you ask yourself, does this pair of pants or this shirt or this sentimental item that I never liked anyway, or this thing that I paid a lot of money for that I never used, does it feel light or heavy? If it feels light, it's not clutter. You keep it. If it feels heavy, that is your permission to let it go. Don't invite any drama, any mind clutter. And that looks like, but somebody gave it to me, I'll hurt their feelings. But no. That's just making it complicated. And so you can learn to trust your intuition by asking yourself, does this feel light or heavy?
Now, these are the types of examples that you're going to be using in your webinar on September 19th. Is that right?
Yeah, I go into so many examples, actions that you can do, that you can implement right away.
Great.
Yes. How to overwhelmed. So often we say, I'm so overwhelmed, I can't start. So talk about all those things so that you can start making a difference.
Anne's going to post the link here for everyone so that you can register for this. It'll be on Thursday, September the 19th, about 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks from now. And it sounds like it'll be extremely valuable and have us all thinking a little bit more on this topic. What should you use to clean mold from walls? I'm going to refer that to Jill Carnahan's site and let you. How do we detox mold from the body? Once again, Jill Carnahan's site, call in. There's a number of steps to that. It's not just one thing you do. And she does a very good job of itemizing all of that.
Can Heather, I pop in for a moment? One thing that I would say and Jill will say this as well, is that, and what I so appreciate that you are doing is that you're taking this topic so seriously. We did not take it seriously in the beginning. And therefore we had 6 remediations over 2.5 years.
Wow.
And so the first remediation, I left the house for 3 months with the kids. We removed some walls and we knew we had it in the attic and underneath the house as well. But my husband truly thought it wasn't a big deal. And I hoped it wasn't a big deal, but I knew deep down, I'm like, And it's expensive dealing with remediations. And so it took us 6 times to finally get it right. And we had to move out again because my symptoms were so horrible. I could not say another moment in the house. And so take it seriously. If you think you are systematic or that you do have symptoms, I would say take it, don't do what I did. Don't make the mistake that I did. Take it seriously. Give your health the best chance you can to get better.
Heather, your symptoms and diagnosis of 3 different autoimmune diseases, did that occur before you moved into this house?
No, after I moved into the house.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And which diagnosis have you received?
So I moved into the house when I was 31, and at 33, I had my first rheumatoid arthritis experience. I was downhill skiing in the Rockies. Came home, and the next day I had soreness in my wrist, and that was like holding my pulse too tight. No, it was rheumatoid arthritis. And then I was diagnosed with Sjogren's and then psoriasis.
Yeah, those are very common. All 3 of those are very common. And for those of you that haven't had a chance to read my book, The Autoimmune Fix, which I'm proud to say won a National Book Award because it's such a good book explaining where autoimmune diseases come from. There has to be outside triggers that accumulate in your body and your immune system's fighting them. And whatever it is that your immune system is fighting kind of looks a little like some of your tissue in terms of the amino acids. So the antibodies that are going after that trigger, whatever it is, look over there. Oh, look, there's more of that. And it turns out to be the collagen of your joints. And so the antibodies that are fighting the bacteria or fighting the mold will now start to attack your joints because it looks similar, the amino acid structure. That's called molecular mimicry. That's a very common mechanism in the development of these diseases, which occurred for Jill 2 years after moving into this house. And some of you have lived in homes for 20 years, 30 years, and you've suspected this, but your immune system or you don't associate the condition that you currently have with the possibility of mold. Colin, for you in Great Britain, Colin's a regular here. He stays up late on Tuesday nights. It's 1 a.m. for him. But for you, you absolutely have to check. I would check yourself meaning do the urine test, do the blood test for antibodies to mold, the urine test for mold metabolites to see, because the conditions that you've been fighting for this last number of months now may be triggered. And I think I said to you last week, clean your shower head. So I'm hoping that's done already. But these are the things on the checklist that you just have to look for to see, is it this? Is it this? Is it this? And once you find it, then you can develop the strategy to go after it. But you have to identify it first. Nikki's asking, what causes the sensitivity in 24% of the population? Is that something that has an underlying cause that can be corrected so that the person isn't so sensitive? Absolutely, Nikki. Really good question. Happens to be what our entire docuseries is about, is that low-grade chronic systemic inflammation inside your body while you feel fine, but there's some triggers inside that are causing more inflammation and more inflammation and more inflammation. And then you cross the line of tolerance, can't tolerate it anymore. Now you start making antibodies to it. And then the tissue destruction comes after that. And for Heather, it took 2 years of living in this house before she had her first symptoms. For some people, it takes 20 years. It just depends. It just depends.
Can I share that?
Please. Yeah.
Changing my diet. So I used to have to use crutches because of the RA flares in my hip and my knees and my ankles.
Wow.
And I had to buy slings and all kinds of things. In our last garage sale, my kids love doing garage sales, I sold the crutches. I don't have the slings and I don't need them. Like
high five, high five, yeah.
I went from having flares almost every single day. And then I changed my diet to whole food, gluten-free, grain-free. Grain was important for me as well. Dairy-free. And I had a month of my body cleaning out. This is years and years ago. And then after the 30 days of pretty hardcore detoxing, I had 4 flares the rest of that year. That's it. 4 flares. That's it. And I don't remember the last time I had a flare, frankly. Like autoimmune, I know I still have inflammation in my body because of my labs. I'm working on all of that. But I the last RA flare, I don't even know. It could have been over a year.
Yeah. Way to go.
Yeah, I mean, that's not part of my story. It doesn't need to be part of my story ever again. And I know the same can happen with the toxic mold, that I'm on the journey, working through it. I also want to say, for those of you who think you might have mold in your house, and you need to stay in your house, definitely remediate, but also come to peace with your house, have a truce, because if you think you're living in a dangerous house after the house is safe, you won't get better. And so often my clients that want to lose weight, instead of writing a love letter to the body, we write a truce to the body. Or my clients that have had cancer, we write a truce to the body. Gets us to a neutral place, because you want to have positive thoughts about your home environment and about your body so that you can heal.
Mm-hmm. Amen. It's so critically important. The entire field of healing, and for people that have tried many things and they get a little better, but it's not quite done yet, or there's always something and I can't quite get it, but I'm not cheating on my diet. And so many times it's the emotional side and the fear and the anger and the hormones that are produced with those stress hormones. That is, and it's not conscious, because if it were conscious, you deal with it. So the things that Heather's talking about here, making peace with your home, and well, I make peace with you. Thank you, home, for protecting us. But inside you go, rah, 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 rah. So that's, once you recognize that, then you can start dealing with that thought process that's there, right? And I think your webinar sounds great, just great. It's on Thursday, September 19th.
September 19th, I think it's a Tuesday.
A Tuesday, yeah.
September 19th, 6 o'clock Eastern. It's fun. I'm kind of an upbeat person naturally. And so it's a lively experience. People from all over will tune in, and it's nice to be surrounded by others that are dealing with clutter as well. And of course, we talk about the physical clutter, but we also talk about the mind clutter and the body clutter in the webinar too.
Yes. There's a bunch of questions. We're almost out of time. I'm just going to run through a couple of them quickly. Does everyone who tests positive for mycotoxins get sick? No. Can someone have mycotoxins and not be sick? Yes. For now, just wait. It'll come. It'll come. What about dust? Is that toxic? If there's mold spores in the dust, absolutely. If you don't have mold in your house, but you have dust accumulation, yeah, if you've got plastic blinds on your windows, the plastic blinds are outgassing phthalates into the air. You're breathing phthalates. They're the chemicals used to mold plastic. If you're, well, that's a whole world to talk about. But in the handout link that Ann put here to detox your home, she'll also put the link for plants. And I want you to download that link and read about the studies that NASA did, how plants clean your air. 2 6-inch houseplants in a 10 by 10 room cleans the air of 74% of the toxins in the air. So get some houseplants. They're inexpensive, and we show you which ones to get, and we'll put that link there for you. Can a heart arrhythmia be caused by mold? Absolutely. Is superficial mold that can be wiped off the wall from the shower toxic? Absolutely. Absolutely. Because that mold's producing spores that are in the air. You're breathing it. The spores sit on top of the shower rack. You know, here's the door, and there's a rack here. There's spores up there. There's mold spores everywhere in your room where there's been mold. You can't just wipe it off and think it's okay. Or the grout in the shower. You get a little place in your shower where the grout is dark colored, but the rest of the grout is light colored. That's mold. That's most likely mold. And so you've got to clean all that because you're breathing, you and your family are breathing toxic air. Well, we could go on and on, but we've run over. Heather, it's really nice to spend time with you. I want to congratulate you on what you've done and how vigilant you've been and produced the results that you produced. And thank you that it created this passion in you that you share this with the rest of the world. Thank you so much.
It's been my sincere pleasure. And you're right. It became a gift for me. Yeah. Absolutely. And I want to say thank you for your patience with all my coughing and wheezing. And it's an important topic. So I really appreciate your invitation. Thank you.
You're very welcome. All right, everyone. We'll see you next week.